Hello, everyone. Sean Taggy here, Chief Operating Officer and partner of Memphis Investment Properties. I am thrilled and ecstatic today to be having Dr. Tom Burns on with us. Tom, how you doing today?
Doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. So if you can look up Tom Burns later on. We're going to go into his life a little more, but he's a doctor, orthopedic surgeon background, but then also found an escape from the rat race. And we'll talk about his book, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. And so he also does real estate and has a real estate syndication company with some other partners, and has been around the block a time or two in real estate and in life. So it'd be really great to hear your insights, Tom.
You bet. I can tell you all my mistakes.
Awesome. Yeah. And I love that. I love that you're so transparent about it and just straight to the point, down to earth kind of guy. I love it. So Tom, I like to kind of start just a little bit from the beginning. I think this is where most of our people are at. They're either looking to get started in real estate or maybe just kind of down the road. And I think that's the hardest part is, how did you get started earning passive income while so busy as a doctor?
Sure. It started a bit before that. You know, as I tell people, a lot of people, you don't feel sorry for doctors. It's a great job. We make a bunch of money. I mean, that's just kind of typical. But I didn't like the lifestyle. And so I had some time and ended up basically studying, learning about real estate until I got myself settled and finished my doctor training. This happened while I was learning how to be a doctor. And so once I got to where I, kind of read enough, I needed to get in the game. So I just flat went and bought something just so I just bought something. And I bought it. I picked it because, a busy surgeon has, a lot of hours. Doctors work a lot of hours, and a lot of people work a bunch of hours, and real estate kind of fit for me because you can do it part-time. You can do it after hours. You can do it on weekends. You can have partners. Yep. So roll all that together, at least in my situation, I just got to a point where I wanted to get something. So I bought a single student condominium on West Campus at the University of Texas. That was my first real purchase. I had a couple others before that, but they were fake real estate deals. That was all part of home buying. And I ended up flipping some lots unintentionally. My true first investment was a condominium.
Okay. So a condominium. So just, kind of like most of our people, just a rental and a single family area.
Yep.
And so what mindset shift did you have? Because most doctors I talk to don't have real estate. They dump everything in the stock market or whatever else. Also me, I'm an engineer background. So I talk to a lot of analytical engineers who get stuck in analysis paralysis and all of that. What mindset shift did you have to kind of get started in that so long ago,
I laugh because you know us. Yeah, all doctors, scientists, engineers, we're all kind of analytical by nature, and it's just do it yourself and analyze the thing until it's just dead and buried and the opportunity's passed. But to answer your question, so I was just going through my path. I had zero financial education. I had no financial education in college. Obviously, in med school, they give us nothing. But what happened to me, and it's important, I'm watching the guys that I'm supposed to be like 20 years from now, the folks that I'm supposed to emulate, making lots of money, driving fancy cars, and complaining about not having any time on their second or third marriage, complaining about other people controlling their destiny or how much money they made. And also, I was supposed to be there. I was an indentured servant, so I'm in the hospital all the time. But I'm watching these guys that were supposed to be out and successful. Well, they're at the hospital at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. So that's what triggered it. I just decided I didn't want to be them. Particularly, I didn't want their lifestyle. I didn't want their money if I had to have their lifestyle. So I figured there had to be something outside of medicine, not correlated with seeing patients or doing the work, that would bring in some money. So I actually researched, and I researched a number of things. I looked at the stock market and figured out that roulette wheel was just too fast for me. And it takes a lot of study to understand the stock market, and plenty of people have done well. I looked at, wearing a suit and joining administration. Well, that was just that would be a job, and I'm not a very employable guy. So real estate, I went to a conference where they talked about, it was actually a little marketing conference for a financial firm who of course wants to get the doctors while they're still young and impressionable, and they want us to be clients, right? Because a fair amount of income comes in later. but that's where the numbers, they showed a little metric of compounding interest and how starting now makes you more money than waiting and starting later. And
Right.
that really hit me, and I understood the numbers. So I landed on real estate and just dove into it while I was in training, started learning about it. So that was the shift. I didn't want to be trapped in something I wasn't happy in. My plan was to have a nice, happy life. And those guys didn't seem to have it. So I didn't want
Right.
that life.
I relate pretty much similar to that. I was an engineer background, biomedical engineer, doing medical device research. And I just saw my peers 10 years, 20 years ahead of me. They're climbing the corporate ladder, getting their MBAs or more advanced degrees, but they're just stuck there still, doctor, and like you mentioned, it's not just doctors. There's lots of professionals that are kind of stuck in that rat race. And you mentioned Rich, you were one of the first people of the Rich Dad Poor Dad books that bought it. And that really probably shifted you as well. But I saw that too. And I did the same thing, research, and it really changed my life. And 4 years ago, I was working in research, and now I'm here doing real estate full time. So it's definitely been that influential for me.
Yeah. Here we all sit in the afternoon, not having to be at work. That's nice.
Yeah, that's right. It's really nice. And I'm more of a people person than, just numbers all day. So what advice, and I've talked to some of my friends, and other people, I've given them, how to get started, but what do you have for them, for those doctors and professionals on getting started? What are the main steps they need to take?
So find what you like. And that's easy to say. It's hard. Just do some research, meaning just get involved a little bit. So read a little first. Just read and see what kind of stuff you like. Listen to some podcasts. There's a plethora of information available now. When I started, you got to realize this was back in the late 80s when I was starting this stuff. So we didn't have podcasts and a lot of things like that. And we walked to work in the snow 20 miles every day, but you got to learn a little bit, find out what you like, listen on podcasts, start hanging around people that are doing what you think you might want to do. So that's whether it be a real estate meetup group, listening to your videos. There's so much information out there. You can get a feel for what sounds cool, sounds fun, sounds like it might make you some money, and sounds like it might get you to where you want to be. And I do tell people, I tell folks that are in my profession and yours, anybody that's a professional, most of us learned under some sort of an apprenticeship program, which is kind of the old way. Doctors learn from older doctors, and you gradually get to where you know what you're doing. It's the same thing in life and making money. Find yourself a mentor. Find yourself somebody who's already where you want to be. Pay them if you have to. That's not payment. That's an investment.
Right.
And so that'll shorten your progress. It'll give you better information. It'll let you make mistakes through them rather than making your own. And that's it's a great way to get started. And I guess I just finish with, be around people that excites you and encourage you to go chase your dream, to use a cliche term, to go do what you want to do, because it's exciting to be around those folks. You'll find partners, you'll find inspiration, and you'll find ideas. And, when everybody's like-minded, it really multiplies what's possible for you.
Yeah, that really hits home with me. That's how I was doing it about 4 or 5 years ago. I was, working my job, but after hours, I was going to the RIAs, meeting up with all the other flippers, the buy and hold investors, and just adding value wherever I could. And I could actually add value. Like, surprisingly, a lot of these guys hate numbers. They hate doing analysis and spreadsheets. Right. And I loved it. So I was just helping them run through all these deals real quickly and help them streamline to be able to analyze a deal in an hour down to 5-10 minutes using some processes. Right. And then that's also why I got lucky enough to where just networking out there, I found Reedies, the Reedies here at Memphis Investment Properties, and got on board as a partner. Started out kind of small, get my foot in the door, but built my way up. And was lucky enough to have a mentor and a partner at the same time kind of relationship. But then it's also been, adding value in my perspective fields to help them and vice versa. So I definitely see that. Try to find, going off on yours, is find that person that's busy like yourself or someone more advanced, and try to find a way to add value to them.
So, we all have some sort of genius, but none of us have everything as well. So creating teams is a great way to get things done. And just, I guess, as a validation of this get a mentor thing, I was doing just what I said. I had read a bunch of stuff. I had actually bought some things already, and I felt like I was bumping up against the ceiling. I once I bought one condo, I bought a jillion of them, and I got real good at that. And people started coming in, potential partners and things like that. But I wanted to up my game. So I went to a developer friend who was a friend of mine. And I said, look, I like what you do. Will you teach it to me? He said, sure. So I worked for the guy for roughly 18 months, 2 years, doing build to suits and land deals and things like that. I made $0, but I learned a ton, and it spawned a very large project that he and I did together. So trying to add, you made the best point. You want a mentor, but you want to add value to them. Sometimes that value is, sometimes a lot of mentors really want to teach. They want to try to pass on what they learn and see if their students can do even better than them. So add some sort of value, be valuable to other people, and you will create value for yourself.
Love that. So now going off, thinking about our people who have 1 or 2 rentals or looking for their first one, they also get overwhelmed with all the options in real estate on where they can invest passively. Let's say they've decided, I don't want, I'm considering everything. So what are the several options people have and kind of the pros and cons of how to invest in real estate as a professional working full time?
Sure. If it's, now if you want it to be, you can go a number of ways. You can buy your own stuff and set up a team, and that stuff can run over time on its own. That's one way. You basically get a good management team, get you a bookkeeper, get things like that. You can own your own stuff and really get it down to an hour or 2 a week or however you want to do. That's one way. It's sort of active passive.
Right.
You can follow like your company, turnkey purchases. You can buy single family homes on a turnkey basis. And if you trust and like your management company, they've got a long track record. That's a great way to get started. To see what it does is, number one, it gives you some passive income. Then it gives you the bug, because when you start getting passive income, you get addicted to it. Yes. And so you want to buy more. And then over time, you may branch out to something else. Then going forward, there's other things you need. If you want to be passive, you basically either need to buy something that's already set up, like a triple net property or a turnkey single family home or some sort of turnkey rental. Crowdfunding is another option. These days, with the law changes back roughly 2012, you can now invest with big companies who have access to lots of deals. And I can tell you that they do a good job of making sure that there's reasonably good sponsors. My company itself has been vetted through the largest company out there, and they look up your skirt, basically. And so they make sure that we're putting in a significant amount of equity. They make sure the deal makes sense. They underwrite it. So that's one way. It's a little more sterile. It's almost like buying a REIT. That's another option. You could buy a REIT, but buying a REIT's not buying real estate.
Like stocks.
You're buying a stock. You're buying a real estate stock, and that's not part of the direct ownership of real estate that you and I like to preach, I suspect.
Right.
So you can, and then there's typical syndication. Find a good sponsor, and it's got a good track record. There's a lot of things that make a good sponsor. Find somebody you trust that does a good job. You hand them your money. It's a win-win situation. They've got the deal and the expertise. You've got the money with no time and expertise. Those two come together, and that's how syndication works.
And it's nice. And it's nice on syndications because you do get the advantages of some of the tax write-offs, the mortgage pay down, and all of that, where, like a REIT and all those other things that you're not really tapping into that as much. But, owning, so where you have at least some sort of fractionalized share or a whole ownership. Yeah, I agree with you.
Exactly. You want the tax benefits on real estate is one of the reasons we like real estate. So, and a final thing, which some people don't think of, you can be a partner. You got to really trust your partner, but you can be the money and they can be the work. That's like a syndication, but it's just you and that partner. So it's like a mini syndication. So there's a lot of ways you can participate passively. It just depends on what hits your emotions and what works best for you. Lets you sleep at night.
Totally depends on risk tolerance, time you're willing to involve into it, the capital you have. And so are you taking on more people for your syndications? And how could people find out about those?
Sure. Always. More is always better. We typically, so far, we typically overfund ours relatively quickly, but that may be a factor of the fact that we don't do a ton of deals each year because it takes us a long time to find a good deal. So for my real estate company, it's Presario Ventures, like the word impresario. Okay. Presario ventures.com.
I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Ventures. Yeah. Pardon me?
I'll make sure to put that in the show notes, the link to it. That's awesome. Yes, we
Okay.
can check you out. And I think it's interesting. We've done a couple more just 506B offerings, so just people close near to us. But you're doing kind of more the development, building from ground up. We're more the kind of value add, bumping up the rents quite a bit, putting in a big renovation. Pros and cons to each side of that on a syndication, right? Like I would assume on the ground up development, a little more costs up front, takes a long time to start getting capital. But once you do, it's probably a fairly well deal. And you kind of, in the market fluctuations, who knows where it goes in 2 years, where a value add kind of multifamily, it's kind of already cash flowing a little bit. There's value to add. So it might be not great cash flow at the beginning. There's pros and cons to each side of it.
It's yin and yang, man. There's two sides to every coin. There's always something good, something bad about anything. And
right.
On the value adds, exactly. If you buy right, there's some cash flow at the beginning, and it's pretty straightforward to, you can push your equity. You can force equity basically on value adds by doing your upgrades, interior or exterior, doing what you need to do. The metrics and the comps in the market will tell you where that likely can end up. And as you increase your net operating income, as you know, so increases your value. Then you either refinance and harvest that value, or you sell, or you just clip along and keep clipping coupons. So right. It's a nice way to go. On the development side, however, and sort of sometimes on the negative on the value add, or just different way to look at it, don't always know exactly what you're buying. You do your best job to inspect. You don't right. exactly know what kind of skeletons there are in the closet. And we all have those stories.
Yeah.
And if you do sell, there is a recapture on all the depreciation that you've gotten over the years you've owned it. So, and that happens whether you sell a development or a value add. Some plans have been that 3 to 5 years, we're going to harvest that, we're going to pay our taxes. Or if you're set up in something fancy like a Delaware statutory trust, maybe you can 1031 that. On the development side, it's not cash flowing. It's usually a piece of dirt. And so we buy the dirt, we entitle it, we get the plats, we do our stuff. So it takes 12 to 14 months to build the property. It takes another 10 months to stabilize, stabilization being 90% occupied. And so that takes some time. So it's more patient equity. You might be collecting a preferential return, but it's not being distributed to you. So you don't usually see much money till about year 3. And then those will tend to clip along and rise over time as you increase rents and the market hopefully continues to inflate prices. So with development, at least we pretty much know what kind of difference there's going to be from our yield to cost and our value at the time that it's stabilized. And there's a gap there. And that's the value that we know we're going to produce that value rather than buying it and producing it with renovations. So right. That's one thing.
And there's probably more potential, for an upside on a big new construction development. I mean, because it's very few people can get into it. It's more difficult for them and all that. So
yeah, it's a smaller ocean, and that's part of why we stayed in there, because everybody got into the value add space, and we bought some value adds and did our thing, but we got so good at development and all our relationships worked there that we've kind of stayed there. And at least for first 10 years or so, there's no deferred maintenance.
That's nice.
There's a lot of deferred gratification. There's no deferred maintenance. And, we build up those reserves. So when things start happening at year 8, 9, 10, 11, we've got the money to take care of those things. And we kind of move on from there. If things work right, we'll refinance the property and give the investors back all their money and keep 100% of the property for all of us. So that's a nice way to go.
That's the beauty of it, really, in real estate. If you hold on to it, even a turnkey or anything, you hold on to it 5, 10, 20 years, you can refi, pull out all your principal plus then some maybe, and you're getting an infinite return on investment. I mean, it's just beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing. It's like free money, and you're deferring those taxes until if and when you ever sell, if you do.
Correct. So another question that I'm sure a lot of people would want to ask you there, let's think of a guy, he owns 3, maybe 4 or 5 rentals, single families, and he's liking it, but he sees some other options. He still wants to work in his job. I think that's what our typical investor is. They're still working their job, but they want to have their highest and best use of their money invested. What do you think, what advice would you give them who want to take it to the next level? What should they just keep buying single families? I don't know. There's lots of options, but what would be the best thing for them to be doing?
Wow, it's tough to think of a best thing,
Right.
and I'm with those folks. I've been, I'm still working as what I do, and it's been 10 years since I haven't had to. So that's a nice crowd to talk to. A lot of us like our jobs. Some don't. Uh, you know, it's it depends on where you're. I hate to use the word passion. It depends on where your mind goes, what you want to do, and where you want to be. Some people really just they want to get big. They want to get rid of their old job. They want to get big, and they want to they've got Ferraris and things and vacation homes tacked up on the walls. Other people just want enough money to cover their passive income. So if you want to get bigger, a number of ways. Uh, Either do more of what you're doing now. So if you got 5 single family homes and you're really good at it, create a system, hire an engineer like you, and create a team and get it to where everybody else does all the work and you're up here overseeing it. Then you can still be in your vacation home in Colorado while the company's running. If you don't want to do that, then and you want to move into something else, learn about it, hang around people that do it. If you want to move from single family homes to apartments, start hanging around with apartment people.
Right.
And I suggest create a team that can buy or build or do whatever you want to do with apartments or industrial buildings or storage or whatever you choose. Create a team and leverage the expertise of others, get a smaller piece of a much bigger pie. And those things they can run very smoothly. Everything has its problems, but they can run smoothly and you'll still have your freedom. So it's getting educated, finding out what you like, and starting to get around people that want to do the thing that you've chosen to do.
Yeah, sounds like kind of picking out something from there is leverage, and that's something my dad taught me. He's a business owner, a fruit orchard business owner, but he said, Sean, leverage your time, leverage your money. And I just think that's key is you can't do it all on your own. You can leverage a property manager, you can leverage a contract,
Yeah.
and your relationships. It's not like, in terms of a controlling manipulative way, it's a scratch your back, I scratch my back type of thing and add your value, and then leverage your money, which real estate, it's a hedge against inflation and everything like that. So yeah, that speaks a lot to me. I like that.
Yeah, if you're not using leverage, you're the business. And if you're the
Yeah.
business, you can't leave. So
Right. So zoning in on yourself personally, what does your typical work week look like? As you mentioned, you don't have to work, but you do because you like it. And that's kind of where I want to be. I'm on that path. I'm getting closer and closer. And so what, kind of tell me your mindset on like, you're obviously picking this week, like you can pick whatever you want. So what have you picked and what does your work week look like and why?
yeah, I'm blessed, man, because I did this slow. You guys, most people can do this faster than I did. I did it seat of my pants, and I had plenty of help as people came along. But it was about 10 years ago that I all of a sudden realized that my passive income had eclipsed my expenses. I watched that stuff. I had a financial program that showed me what I paid for utilities and things like that. And they used to be a fun little game. I'd say, hey, look, I make enough each year to pay for my utilities. I don't have to worry about that anymore, or a
Yes.
car payment if I had that.
I'm very guilty of that with being a numbers nerd.
Yeah. And I'm a numbers nerd too. So early on, I was like the spreadsheet guy, and I'm a doctor being the spreadsheet guy. So we quickly leveraged that to somebody who was like you, better than me. But it's a small win, right?
Right.
If you get, if your cable bill is $300 a month, and you get one of your turnkey rentals that eventually coughs up $300 a month, guess what? You've paid for your cable bill. Doesn't seem like it's not a life changer, but it's fun to say I've paid for cable. You put that one away, you do the next one.
Yeah.
So small wins are important. And so anyway, sorry, back to so I decided I didn't have to, but talent wise and personality wise, I'm a kind of a people guy. I love talking to folks. So what I did was I took that freedom and just eliminated the things that I didn't like about my job, taking call doctors that stay up all night, and be in the emergency room. I stopped doing that in the 1900s, got busier. I started eliminating things that hospitals wanted me to do, and had enough time to go build my own hospital. And so I now got it to where I enjoy going into work. I see people that are friends. So I do that in the mornings. And if it wasn't for COVID, I basically tell people I work 2 to 5 mornings a week, no afternoons, because I turn into a pumpkin if I try to be a doctor in the afternoon.
Right.
So it's fun. If it's not COVID, I'm usually out. I'm either speaking somewhere or at a seminar, or, I like to hunt. You can tell from the stuff behind me. I like to travel. That is Tom Burns' hot button, is travel.
Awesome.
Uh, in the afternoons, prior to COVID, some days I would go into my real estate company. We have that leveraged out as well, so we don't have to go in every day. We've got great employees that are really good. And so now I'll spend my time in the afternoon, either typically hiking down by the lake. That's a good thinking time for me. I'll work on our real estate company. I work on my education company was spawned out of the book that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of hang out with me. My daughter, my adult daughter is a doctor, but she's off today. So I'll hang out with her when you and I finish. And then we'll go see my mom who lives here. So I try to be finished, pretty much by dinner time. I'm still a bit of a workaholic. I'm doing this out of choice. So sometimes I'll write blogs, or I would write part of my book after dinner just because it was fun.
Yeah.
So
you just love what you're following your passion, and you're using the 80-20, the Pareto principle, like that, the stuff that really sparks the most joy for you, makes you the happiest and the highest and best use of what you can do. And you're kind of pushing down the rest onto other people that are better at it. So I like,
yeah. And I think I would go crazy if I had to play golf every day. I think I will probably die with a deal in the works, and that makes me happy.
I love it. That sounds a lot how I'll be too. I'll probably retire, take like, or whatever could be done, take like 2 weeks off, maybe 3, and be like, okay, I got to get back, like
start another project. Why not? Keeps us young.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So now, of course, I want to hear about your book, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. Tell us a little bit about it and where people can find it.
Okay. So I'll keep that. I would like to tell the story. I'll keep it short. So one of my friends is Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I'm in Robert's advisory group. And one day he said, hey, you got a story. You ought to write a book. And typical Tom Burns, I'm like, okay, why not? I'd kind of figured I might write one someday, and that was just enough of a push. So then he go, and I'll say this publicly. And he said, you can call it Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. So he's a good title maker.
Yeah.
And I kept that for 2.5 years, expecting I might change it, but I never found anything better. I wrote the subtitle. So I started to write the book, and I just started writing. And it was actually the book itself was a growth process. It took me 2.5 years. I did not use leverage. I wrote every word of the book. I did have editors. I had 3 separate editors to look at. I wanted third parties to see it. I wrote every word, and because I knew there would be a learning process, and there was a lot of growth. And in my research, I found a lot of physicians, a lot of other professionals that aren't physicians who were really unhappy. And I had no idea, because I was so happy with what I did.
Yeah.
I found out that, a good half of them would maybe not do what they're doing if they had it to do over again because of the pressures they're feeling. So I knew how much I enjoyed medicine and how much fun I was having. And so that became the mission of the book, was to give physicians and other, paid professionals some guidance and some hope that you're not trapped. And I heard those words from a doctor, I feel trapped, until they heard me speak on something. So I want them to know they're not trapped. There are infinite number of options out there to give you some freedom. It doesn't mean you have to quit. So it's designed to first give them a mindset to think about money, to think about what freedom and what wealth really is. Wealth isn't necessarily a number attached to a dollar sign. It's time, it's control, it's freedom, it's what you want to do. So that's the crux of the book. There's some action steps in there on how to get started, but that's why I wrote it. And now part of the mission is really to get as many doctors out there as possible to smile. When you're not pressured as much, you smile more. So happy doctors make for a happier population. And when I'm 1 billion years old, I want a happy doctor walking in to see me, to take care of me. So that's all it's about. It's just giving people, it doesn't mean people have to quit their jobs, just to give them some freedom, take a little pressure off, and give some choice. And so tried to make it an easy read. You can read it practically in a day if you read fast. And there's good resources in there as well.
Awesome. And then you mentioned a lot about, other books and other learning. I know you have an education site, richdoctor.com. I've actually
Yes.
logged in and signed up to your insiders program, and has a lot of suggestions and other actionable steps. So yeah, can you, and people can just go to richdoctor.com and learn about that. What's kind of your vision behind that?
Yeah, so Rich Doctor again was born out of the book process. It was a sort of a gathering place for people to get some information, have community, keep up with what's going on, ask questions. So it's still evolving, but I've started to write a blog where I write helpful things about real estate. It's about half real estate and half personal development mindset. So it depends on what you like, but I like to write about that stuff. And so it's becoming a gathering place, and we're starting to develop some coaching options for people. And so that's coming out over the next couple of months as well. It's at richdoctor.com.
Awesome. I love that. I love both those things. And that's what I preach as well. So yeah, just wrapping up here, any other advice or any other things you're passionate about that you'd like to bring up to anyone here?
Sure. I would tell everybody out there listening to keep listening to things like this. Find other things, find what you like. There's information everywhere. Also be ready to fail and fall down a bit. That's part of why I talk about talking to mentors and coaches, is just because sometimes you can learn from their mistakes, but boy, you learn best when you have your own, and you're going to have them. And don't look at mistakes as failures. Just look at them as that. You hear it sounds so cliche. They're truly learning opportunities. And I can tell you, I've failed so many times that I didn't always think I was going through a learning opportunity. But as I get older and get this gray hair, I pretty much know when something crappy happens, something good's going to come from it. I'm going to learn something that's going to make me a bunch of money in the future, or make me a better person, or have me meet somebody. So don't be afraid to take action. You don't get anywhere unless you get in the game. So get in the game, make a few mistakes, maybe bring somebody with you that can help you make less, but just start to do, and you'll find your stride. And it's a great feeling when you get a little more control and time in your life.
Love it. Tom, thank you so much, man. Wrapping up here, you just have I feel like you have a great, solid mindset and foundation. Thanks. Which I love it, because it's just emulating down onto me and the other people hearing it. And those final thoughts, especially, like, it's harder for me, mistakes and things that happen. I'm kind of more of a, I like the control. I like, just to follow things, but I do see the value in that. And it's like, well, what can I learn from this? And, you've seen it, what you have learned from it over the years, and the benefits of those mistakes, which it's hard to see sometimes. So really appreciate it. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Reach out. Yeah. richdoctor.com. Yeah. Buy the book, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. We'll show the links to everything else. Thank you so much, Tom. You have a good one.
Thank you, Sean. You guys have a great day.